What's up, everybody? It is a Blue Drake, and today I am actually very excited that Steel Division is finally released. The first gameplay, raw, commented, of course, gameplay footage of Steel Division, and it looks really great. I am really excited to play this because I think it is going to be everything that fans of World War II, fans of Company of Heroes, fans of Wargame are really looking, not just as like a reskin of Wargame, but as a whole new vision of the game and a whole new reimagining of what Wargame can be, especially and appropriate for the World War II front. So what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be looking at the gameplay, and we're going to be going over some of the major things that you are probably going to want to know that's different from Wargame. Now, the first thing is, if you see, there are two large things here. There's a blue rectangle, which shows the U.S. forces or Allied forces, their area of influence, and then you have the red area. As you can see far in the distance there's red area, which is of course the Axis forces area of influence. Now, the cool thing about this game, and this is actually something that's really interesting compared to other games in Wargame, if you remember if you've ever played European Escalation or any of the other versions of Wargame, you'll know that there is no front line as much. Sometimes front lines naturally occur, but since it is a modern game, there is a lot of I guess stealth gameplay, where you have anti-tank units hiding in bushes, you have infantry going behind enemy lines, lots of that. There's a lot of long-range engagements and a lot of one-hit, one-kill with very long-range, precise weapons. In World War II, naturally, all of that is out the window, and I think that is illustrated really, really cool with the way they do their area of influence system, because now, instead of having no idea where the enemy forces are, what you're going to have is, as your units move up, you are actually going to influence these areas of control. So if we forward wind, and you'll see infantry and different cards being placed down, different trucks and whatnot, and when they actually start moving forwards, they actually impact this front line, which is naturally occurring based off of the concentration of forces in the area. And I think this is really cool. I think this solves a whole bunch of problems. I think this is going to make gameplay much more, maybe like Company of Heroes or something like that, where it's much more push and pull, and it's a lot less, when you compare it to something like Wargame, a lot less cloak and dagger. And that's what World War II was all about. It's very appropriate for World War II. You're going to have much more of a front line, even though you have units occupying different towns and different places. You don't have to obviously place, an infantry unit everywhere on this dotted line, and that's kind of the beauty of this system. If you can see, this front line spans across the entire area, but it doesn't tell you exactly where the enemy is, so it's not a crutch. For instance, the enemy is somewhere in this area. They're obviously behind enemy lines, they're in their area of control, but you don't know exactly where. But it gives you a really great idea of where to start enforcing a front line, so you can have that frontline gameplay that was much more common in World War II combat. I think that's an ingenious way to implement a new gameplay mechanic that's meaningful in a War Thunder inspired game. As you can see here, there's enemy contact. This is the area of influence. You've got a main tank coming up on this road, and you've got friendly forces sitting here holding this this town. Now, I think one of the coolest things about this is I haven't seen this yet, but I almost guarantee that there will be different units with different abilities. For instance, maybe there is a special forces unit that actually doesn't impact the front line, so you actually can send them behind enemy lines. But for other things, maybe not so much. And that whole element and that whole potential for a whole new gameplay mechanic and a whole new reason to pick some units over others could have a big impact. For instance, instance, maybe there's a tank and it's loud and it's very obvious, and it maybe impacts the front line much more than infantry or special forces units or a sniper or something like that, which I think is really, really cool. I'm so happy that I'm actually seeing this gameplay. So here we can actually see a skirmish between a mortar and a couple of tanks. Now, the interesting thing to take into consideration here is this mortar cannot damage these tanks at all. But there is a system in Steel Division known as stress. So if you fire at enemy units, they will become stressed, and maybe they'll flee, maybe they'll fall back, maybe they'll not just be as effective. And the cool thing about this is, obviously, when you have this mortar and this mortar is firing at this tank probably can't get damaged by this mortar. But if you were a crew in the tank, you're not gonna be able to sit there and listen and know for sure if a mortar shell is not an anti-tank gun. Maybe if you're really highly trained and you can actually pick out the different explosions and be like, oh, the signature, the acoustic signature of that is not a anti-tank gun, that is a mortar shell. We can survive that. Obviously, that's not going to at least go through a lot of the crewmen's heads that were in World War II. Maybe a veteran or something like that, but most people are going to piss their pants. And that's something that's going to be taken into consideration here. You can use these different mechanics to stress enemy forces, to engage enemy forces almost psychologically, and if you can't engage them just physically, which I think is really, really cool. So we're going to forward wind through here a little bit more. As you can see, there is a lot of influence in there is a lot of influence in war game, but I think that this is actually a much more detailed rendition of a war game inspired game. For instance, you see all of these trees, these roads, all of these, much more detail in the landscape and the area and the types of cover that you can take and the types of things you can do. Whereas war game, I would almost say, I actually think war game might have been much more large scale and much more meta. Whereas opposed to this, I think the engagements are much more detailed. And then here's something just interesting to watch. You can see this front line here as soon as they engage this tank and destroy it. And you can see all of the troops when the tank is destroyed, and they're stressed and they're actually falling back. That entire front line is completely nullified. Look at that, and it falls back, and you actually push that front line back. How cool is that? That is so cool. So that is very likely the case. You're going to have larger units or more high-profile units impacting that front line much more. Maybe drawing attention to that part of the map, but also establishing more of a push and pull frontline warfare style that you would see in World War II. Here's some really interesting gameplay where you can see the front lines becoming really, really complex. This game reminds me more of Company of Heroes. I used to play Company of Heroes Blitzkrieg, and this actually reminds me more of that than it reminds me of War Game, which is crazy, which means I'm even more excited about this. And there's an aircraft. You can see there's actually planes in this. Whoa, whoa. Look at those effects. Oh, that looks so cool. And then here is a segment where Allied forces are getting overrun, but they're holding a position very intently in this area. And then you have what looks like an enemy aircraft strafing in the back, which again, I mean, obviously things like aircraft probably won't impact the front line. There will probably be other things, like if you are behind enemy lines or if you don't have as established a front line, it will probably impact maybe morale or combat effectiveness or all sorts of other penalties and whatnot. Here, in fact, honestly, I'm also going to let you hear the game. I mean, these guys are talking. Maybe you'll learn some things from them, but just to give you an idea of like what the game sounds like and what combat feels like.
To release, maybe we'll have you on a 1v1 skirmish again and see how see
if you've gotten redemption.
Yeah, see if you've gotten better at talking and playing. So we can see that some of our units are stuck in a pocket now. So
Yeah.
how does that affect them?
They get a lot more stress. And
These guys
generally,
don't.
Yeah, generally life just sucks, but they're airborne, so they're handling this pretty well compared to what other units would.
Yeah.
I see we lost our artillery here. There's planes in the air, so normally they would be very stressed. They would probably surrendered if they were not airborne actually.
Yeah.
But they're used to this. They're trained for this. This is also why we even have this left. Otherwise, this pocket would be eaten.
Yeah.
These guys are doing fine now because they're within their area. But if they were attacking us in our area, they would be taking a lot more stress, and it would be easier for us to destroy them.
So if you didn't hear that, that also draws attention. The developers have said that if you're behind the front line, if you're in different areas, you're going to have more stress. It's going to impact combat effectiveness. Lots of really interesting gameplay mechanics.
What should we use to repel this attack? We have a lot of infantry here. I'm out of napalm right now, so my obvious answer isn't here.
Well, I mean, do we want to use our resources from our left flank, or do we just want to add more resources from the back? Because there doesn't seem to be much happening right now.
That's a good point. We don't know what's here. I'm kind of reluctant to push because it's such an open area.
Yeah.
It would be so easy for them to destroy us. So I'm a bit nervous about that. These guys are not doing great right now, so we can move them. I don't want to lose this. This is one guy, you can see here on the green.
Yeah.
This is one guy still here.
Poor guy.
He's holding up. He's tough.
Yeah, but the other unit is actually folding back, so maybe we can... Oh, see?
Yeah, look at that. So this one guy just might take out these 8 guys. I'm hoping if I move this tank back here a little bit, I can cut through here.
Oh, he's pinned down again. That's unfortunate.
It's gonna be rough. I'm sending reinforcements.
Anyways, I'm gonna stop this teaser for you. If you want to go check it out, make sure you go check out their Twitch channel. Here it is, the www.twitch.tv/ let's see if I can find their Paradox Interactive. Bam, there we go. And you can check out their brand new stuff that they just released of the game, which is really, really exciting. In addition to that, I actually do finally have my laptop, which is actually serving as a secondary streaming PC, which is really, really great. That is going to allow me to stream much more reliably, much more confidently. So I'm going to be doing that a lot more in the future. Hopefully, this is only the beginning, and I'm really excited. Okay, tell me what you think in the comments, and I'll see you guys next time. Love you. Bye!